Good evening. My name is Michael Rummel. I am an educator in the state of Florida for the past 23 years. I've taught high school most of my career, except for 1 year I was at an elementary school. Recently, November 30th of 2021, I had to drop my wife off for self-surrender to Carswell FMC in Fort Worth, Texas. Prior to self-surrender and sentencing, my wife, Justina, suffered a serious accident at home that resulted in a traumatic brain injury, which triggered functional neurological disorder, or FND, which has been classified as a rare disease. It took away her ability to use her right leg, and she had lost all feeling and had partial paralysis on the right side of her body from her shoulder all the way down. From July to November, she worked diligently with occupational and physical therapists to regain some movement, although she still walked with a walker and could not do some of the things that all of us probably take for granted on a daily basis. Open a tube of toothpaste, wash our hands, brush our teeth, write letters, use a fork, open a bottle of Tylenol. All of these things were difficult for her. However, through therapy, she was getting better and had an appointment to have an extensive treatment at the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville to help improve things drastically. Unfortunately, her judge did not allow her to attend this treatment, and she had to self-surrender. Since she's been at Carswell FMC, she has had a slew of issues, most of them being medical. She's been referred to by one guard's letter that was sent home to me as a model citizen and someone that did not belong or fit in at the prison she was in. She worked diligently with Bible study and leading prayer groups. She volunteered to work the suicide watch on her floor. And she's pretty much the peacemaker on the entire floor that she's in at the hospital side of Carswell FMC, which is a medical care level 3 facility. Care level 3 basically is the highest that you can go in our Federal Bureau of Prisons, which means that they take care of end of life, cancer, and other serious debilitating injuries that other prisons are not able to do. Prior also to self-surrender, my wife had a tumor removed from her breast. The tumor we thought was the end. She was scheduled for a mammogram in January of this year, 2022. However, she's been gone and they have not given her a mammogram. One day she woke up covered in blood because she had been bleeding from her breast, and they rushed her to the hospital. They did a PET scan, a PET scan, and several areas on the scan showed concern as they glow. Glow means there are areas of concern of possible cancer. Those areas included her armpit, her neck, her abdomen, and of course her breast. It was recommended highly by the doctor who read the scan and completed the scan that she have a follow-up MRI as soon as possible. Months had passed and have still, to this day, has not received an MRI to confirm nor deny that there is cancer present in her body. As all of us may know or have dealing with, cancer is something that will ravage your body and left untreated will bring end of life. It's not being treated for my wife. It's not being diagnosed or ruled out because no one cares. My wife has also been dealing with hypertension, which is high blood pressure. Her numbers have been in triple digits on the the top and bottom number with her heart rate. So yes, my wife's heart rate prior to going to the hospital, before they called an ambulance, which by the way, they waited 45 minutes before they called for one. The nurses said, let's just wait. Her blood pressure was 196/103 with a resting heart rate of 156. By the time the paramedics got there, the EMTs, to take her to the hospital, her heart rate was now 201/136 with a resting heart rate of 178. Anyone that knows anything about blood pressure or heart rate, with her O2 sats down to 91, by the way. Anyone that knows anything about the medical profession and how to take blood pressure and knows anything about heart rate knows that those numbers are extremely dangerous if left untreated. She was taken Tuesday to a hospital around 6:30 p.m., give or take, Texas time, 7:30 my time. The only reason I know is because I had an inmate reach out to a loved one who then in turn reached out to me. I had to wait frantically, not patiently, as I had no idea if my loved one was even alive, what had happened, would I speak to her, and the extent of the injury that she had suffered. All that I was told is it looked like she was having a stroke, as her face was starting to sag, and her speech, she couldn't talk, and her arm was kind of acting up as well. All signs of a stroke. Did not hear anything till Thursday. Tried to call the hospital, the prison, FMC Carswell, numerous times. All they could tell me is that she was alive. I had her appellate attorney call because her case is currently in appeals, and they wouldn't give her much either. All they would tell her was that she was alive and probably that she wasn't in critical care, which turns out was not true, as I did receive a phone call, and I will not explain how I got that phone call. Just know that it was not my wife calling me, but someone called me from inside where she was, handed my wife the phone and let me know, and let her talk to me for 15 minutes. During those 15 minutes, my wife told me that she had a TIA, or what is known as a mini stroke. The neurologist was very concerned at her heart rate and blood pressure. They wanted to give her clot breakers, some form of medication, but they were afraid with her traumatic brain injury and not having her medical records at the hospital that it could actually cause her to bleed out, so they did not do that. They gave her an injection to the stomach. More than likely, it was Lovenox, which is an anti-clot medication, as well as some other forms of medication to try to get her blood pressure down. As I'm speaking to her, I can tell that she had definitely suffered a stroke, as I can tell she's slurring her words, and it sounds like her tongue was swollen, almost like she had been given Novocaine. Anyone that's had any dental procedures will know what that sounds like. She was scared. She was in critical care. They were obviously keeping her under observation. The one good thing that came from that is she was there getting medication and treatment, and she actually got to eat a somewhat decent meal because it was a hospital and not the prison that was serving them food. I got a phone call yesterday on Friday from my wife, who had returned back to Carswell FMC. They had discharged her. Not at the hospital's choice. FMC Carswell said, "You're going back." She was actually going to have to stay a week, or at least through the weekend, so that she'd be able to get her medication and stay for observation, as her blood pressure is still pretty high. And we're not sure if there's any other underlying medical factors that would play into that. Carswell said, nope, you've been treated, you're stable, we're sending you back, you're going back to a hospital. They told her, and obviously my wife's concern was that she would get her medicine so that she would not suffer another stroke. They wanted to send her with medication, and they told her, the hospital, no, We can take care of that. They also wanted to send her with a wheelchair as she's completely strapped, unable to move her right arm completely. She has no grip, she has no control of her right arm, as well as any other motion or movement with her right side. And her face has continued to still droop, although it seems like there's a little bit of improvement, as she said, based on what she can see when she looks in a mirror. They took her back to Carswell. Also, while at the hospital, they wanted to look into the cancer, possibly look at some of the other things that had been hindering her. And apparently it's BOP or Carswell or both's policy that you're only treated for what you were brought to the hospital for and then sent back. So even though there are other underlying conditions that have not been treated and not been assessed, not been reviewed, they would not let the hospital, the people that took an oath to protect and do no harm to these patients, they took my wife back and took her back to FMC Carswell. When she returned to FMC Carswell, she was supposed to leave with a wheelchair because she did not have a wheelchair. She only had a walker. They told the hospital that they had wheelchairs at Carswell. When she got back, they would not give her a wheelchair. They told her that the doctor would have to do that, as well as any medication she has not had now since she's left the hospital yesterday afternoon. It is now Saturday and she's not received any medication, nor has anyone checked her vitals while she's been there. They keep telling her to just go lay down and relax and that she'll be taken care of by a doctor next week when the doctor would come back into the hospital. Mind you, the doctor, I don't want to give names. However, the doctor, after reviewing their medical license, is only licensed to practice at the hospital listed as FMC Carswell, which is the prison. Doctor's specialty is OBGYN. I understand that obstetrician, gynecologist doctors are almost as good as a regular practitioner, but I don't feel that they're the same. However, my wife's never even met this doctor because the doctor has never come around to meet her, although she is listed as a person that requires constant medical care and supervision because of her care level. She has not seen a doctor at all. Her blood pressure while she's been in the hospital at Carswell has been astronomically high, and they continue to tell her that if it's not gotten under control, that she could suffer a stroke and heart attack, or a heart attack. However, they have not given her medication. She's filed several cop-outs. She's filed other forms requesting, begging, pleading for her medication as a fear resulting of something bad happening if not given said medication. And I have copies of these forms. And nothing was given to my wife. And here we are now. She's lucky to be alive after suffering a mini stroke, back in the hospital, or back at FMC Carswell, which is listed as a medical hospital for the Bureau of Prisons, not receiving any medical attention, not having her vitals checked, not receiving blood pressure medication, not even given a wheelchair. When asked, what do I do? Am I supposed to crawl on the floor? They just looked at her. Sometimes no answer is an answer, and I've learned that the hard way. Luckily for my wife, she's met some very nice women in there that have been very helpful. Her INAs are doing as good a job as they can to take care of her. However, they can only do so much. They're not doctors. They cannot prescribe her. They cannot give her medication. They can just help her shower and get to the bathroom and help her brush her hair, because these are all things she cannot do by herself, unfortunately, because of the treatment that she's receiving inside of Carswell FMC. Why am I doing this video? Why am I bringing our family to the forefront? Cannot hide anymore and sit back because of being ashamed of something that happened years before I had even met my wife. I made an oath. I took a vow to love, honor, obey, cherish richer for poor, sickness and health till death do us part. I'm going to hold up my vow and do the best of my ability to get my wife and other women's cases heard, to get the treatment that they deserve as Americans, as taxpayers, as human beings in our country, instead of being treated like cattle, because these women have insurance policies through the Bureau of Prisons. So if, God forbid, one of them pass, they'll still collect money on our spouse or loved ones' bodies and take money and not blink an eye. I ask that each and every one of you that watch this video and share this with anyone, I hope that you're sharing it in efforts to get the word out, to help others. I hope that it encourages you and inspires you as someone that may be suffering as horribly as I am, or our children, her parents, her grandparents, every other loved one that misses her. Those of you that are fighting this fight, you can't fight it alone, and you can't sit back idly and just pray and continue to hope that this government will fix its broken system. I will be the first to tell you, I had no clue of what our government and our prison system looked like until I had a loved one go inside. Unfortunately, it is disgusting, and it has opened my eyes to how horrific we treat our own as Americans. God bless you all. Those of you suffering, God bless you and your family and your loved ones. Do not quit. Do not go quietly. Fight for them, because they're told if they fight inside, they'll be punished. We have to protect our loved ones. Even from hundreds of miles away, thousands of miles away, we have to do our best for them. Because there's only so much or so little that they can do while they're there. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my story. If I could ever be of any assistance, please feel free to reach out. God bless you all. Good night.